This is a hell of a movement, real talk, real life, real people. In fact, it's real law. No, if you ain't got a nationality, you stateless.
And then Jesus delivers this admonition, this warning, this crystallized moment where he takes us back into time in the middle of a dissertation about what he's going to do at the end. He takes us back to what he did in the beginning and says, remember Lot's wife. We don't know for sure who Lot's wife is. We don't know where she came from. We don't know whether he married her while he was in Sodom and Gomorrah or whether she was a part of the entourage that came with him. But we know that she's significant enough that Jesus wanted us to remember her. We know that she is married to a less than a perfect man. She picked a man who, though he was a worshiper of Jehovah, he was also a very carnal person, insensitive as it were, selfish. We know that he was consumed with selfishness and greed. That's how they ended up in Sodom and Gomorrah. Because Lot was trying to trick Abraham and chose what looked good to the eye in a business deal between them. He chose the beautiful plains of Mamre trying to get over on Abraham. But you can't get over on a man of God because you can take what you thought was the head and God will make it the tail. And you can give him the tail and God will raise it up and make it the head. We know that Lot's wife was married to a man who was selfish and carnal because when the men of Sodom came in and were willing to rape the angels, Lot offered up his daughters? What kind of man opens up the door to a bunch of men and says, run a train? And yet Lot's wife walked with him. In spite of his flaws, let us not deal too harshly with him, because in spite of his flaws and failures and whoever she was, God saved them. God saved them and everything in the house in the midst of chaos all around them. They grew up in the wickedness of Sodom and Gomorrah. God saved him. They enjoyed the admiration of all of the people of Sodom and Gomorrah because Abraham had overcome the king and he made it known that Lot was his relative. And sometimes people get to success because of who you are connected to. It isn't about you, boo. You didn't get there by yourself. It's just that you happened to connect yourself with somebody who was so blessed that the respect that you got wasn't the respect that you earned. It was conferred and you received it by association. Can I go deeper? We know that Lot's wife had lived in such a place of respect and integrity that when it came time to leave, it was difficult to leave. And while God began to talk back and forth with Lot, trying to find enough righteous people in the city to save the city. In spite of all Lot's flaws, God saw fit to save him. So shut up your mouth about Lot. You can be right and be wrong. Did you hear me? I think you might be the only person who heard me, because everybody else is so busy arguing, trying to prove you're right. You can be right about the facts and wrong about the truth. The facts are he is carnal. The facts are he made bad choices. The facts are he is selfish. But the truth is God saved him. God delivered him and God brought him out. And God saves whoever he wants to save. God blesses whoever he wants to bless. God delivers whoever he wants to deliver. I probably would not have saved Lot. Anybody who would offer up his daughter to a city full of men, I probably would have burned him first. But God saw fit to save him, and who God saves is none of your business. You got to be able to walk with somebody and shut your mouth and trust God, who had began a good work and you shall perform it unto the day of Jesus Christ. And I couldn't help but think about Mama when Lot's wife started packing up. She had settled in Sodom and Gomorrah. She had a home there. She had a life there. She had status. She had recognition there. And before the brimstone began to fall on the city, and before fire began to engulf the town, two men in a truck had backed up to the house and started loading up everything she had. And she didn't have time to take it because she had to leave real quick. And she had to follow Lot. And so Lot loads up everything and he starts going down the road and he's leaving the familiar and he's going into the unfamiliar, and she's with him, but she's not with him. Halfway out of the city, before they could even get to the mountaintop that God was going to take them to, before they could discover that kingdoms and nations would come out of it, that much of the Middle East would be a result of their relationship, before she could discover who she really was as a woman, because she thought that the sum total of her worth was in her past and not in her future. Because she thought that the good old days were the best days before, she got to find out that God was taking her to a higher place, and that God will always take you to something better. He will not take you to something lesser. Before she ever got to find out who she really was as a woman, before she realized that the best of your life is not accomplished when you're 40. So let me hurry on. Somewhere out there on the road, on the dusty trail, leaving the beautiful plains of Mamre, headed to a mountaintop experience as they walked through the dry place. And maybe it was the sound of the thunder, the lightning, or the tremors of the ground beneath their feet that made her just want to look one last time back at where they came from. Maybe it was the couch that they couldn't get in the truck, and maybe it was the house that she wasn't sure she would ever have again, and maybe it was the playground that she left in the backyard for the kids, and maybe it was the fence around the house. But this mama with two little girls turned away from what was in front of her to look back at what was behind her. And the moment she turned to look back, she turned to a pillar of salt. She is the only one in all of the scriptures that turned to a pillar of salt. She turned to a pillar of salt. Looking back, she turned into a pillar of salt. And it's funny that she would turn into a pillar of salt, because like salt, like salt, her presence was important. Like salt, her presence was holding the family together, because a good mama holds the family together. Like salt, she was a preservative. The only reason our family made it through everything that we went through aside from God is that a good woman preserves the family. Even if you have to explain the kids to daddy and you have to lay down at night and explain daddy to the kids. A good woman is like salt. She keeps the thing from spoiling. She makes it work when it's not working. She takes a part-time job and stretches money that's not even there. She doesn't murmur and complain. She does what she has to do to make it. If she has to get some food stamps and coupons and go on Tuesdays when you get 2 for 1, a good woman. A good woman can make cornbread even when we don't have milk. A good woman can take a good man in a bad situation and make him feel like Superman even though he lost his job. And that's why when a man marries a good woman, he forgets sometimes that she's his wife and calls her mama. Because a good woman makes you want to cuddle up under her arms, because a good woman is a shelter in your life. A good woman is like salt. A good woman is like salt because she seasons up the house. She makes it a better place. She turns a home, she turns a house into a home. She turns a crisis into an opportunity. She turns a calamity into a moment for us to believe God. A good woman is like salt. The food could exist, but it wouldn't be the same if she wasn't sprinkled up in that place. A good woman, I'm talking about a good woman is like salt because she's a purifier. And over the years, she'll take a wild child and purify it. A good woman is like salt. She's a purifier. Anytime you sprinkle her on something, she'll take a man and turn him into a husband. She's like salt. Everything tastes better when she's in it. She's like salt. She cleans up messy situations. She drives out bacteria and says, devil, get out of my house. A good mama will pray at 2 o'clock in the morning while everybody's asleep and open up the door and sweep the devil out of the house, because you can't have my house today. A good woman will step into a stinking hospital room and say, I command you in the name of Jesus to turn. Tell somebody, say, mama, don't look back. She gave up being the presence of salt to become a pillar of salt. For if the salt has lost its savor, what good is it if you are not going to be present in the moment? What good are you? If you're not going to be with me right now, what good are you? If you can't suffer with me before you reign with me, what good are you? Your presence is like salt. But if your salt has lost its savor, you go from the presence of salt to a pillar of salt. When Lot's wife looked back, the family rotted. Oh, they survived without her. They made it to the mountaintop without her. But without her salty presence in that marriage, Lot got drunk and rolled over and laid down with his daughters. He rolled over to a spot she used to be. But without her present, being as carnal as he was, he went bad without her. And both her daughters got raped without her, by their father without her, and produced Moab and Ammon without her. And those children produced a country filled with idolatry without her. She was looking at a city, and God had countries in her